Hi everyone, we'll be starting in about a minute. Good morning, everyone. Good evening. This is Mighty Champions Daily Live. Um, we come here every day and we speak about mental health, well-being. And this week we've been talking about self-awareness, seeing how we react, what makes us reactive. Yesterday, I think was interesting. We took some core beliefs and we explored how we form those. We explored how those beliefs could result in, say, thought patterns, in behaviors, and then how they could become our identity or our personality. So, yeah, that was yesterday. We've also been talking about the alarm system of the brain, what happens when that goes off, activates, and how things we pick up, growing up, learned beliefs can shape those reactions. So today we will be continuing on the theme of self awareness, and we'll be finding out that what is actually happening inside me when I react. And there's a 4-layer model that we'll be going through, which will give us hopefully a very useful map, and it will help us, see what's happening inside the brain and where we can intervene. So that's a short introduction about today and what it's going to be like. As always, we will begin with an arrival practice. And the practice today is called the peripheral vision practice. So, for that, I invite you to settle down, sit comfortably with your eyes open. So, we're going to begin by changing or redirecting the way we use our attention. And don't look at anything in particular, just let your gaze soften. And if possible, you can look straight ahead while becoming aware of what you can see at the edges of your visual field. So, looking ahead and also becoming aware of sideways. What can you see? What's there in your field of vision? And without moving your eyes, notice what is happening in your peripheral vision. Maybe you can see some shapes, light, some movement, space. What do you find? And now notice sounds. Don't search for them. You can let sounds come to you. Distinct sounds nearby, moving your awareness from one to the other. And if you happen to be in a really quiet place, you could maybe move your awareness amongst my voice, among the sound of your breathing, the sound of your heartbeat. You have a fan, you just sound of the fan, horns outside, traffic. Maybe there's a pet breathing nearby. Notice now the sensation of your feet, wherever they are, whatever they are touching. Notice your breathing now. Simply noticing your breathing, noticing in breath and the out breath. Notice perhaps the weight of your body. And then for the next few moments, you can allow your attention to become wide rather than narrow. So, whatever is coming in into your field of awareness, allowing that. And now you can close your eyes. And although the visual field has disappeared, your experience remains. There are still sensations, sounds, thoughts, perhaps even emotions. And something is able to notice all of them. So today we're going to explore that inner landscape. So thanks for this practice. You can open your eyes, come back into the session. And yesterday we talked about the rules that we absorb growing up, not just directly, but also indirectly through how we see other people behaving and the repercussions of those behaviors. Are they applauded for those behaviors or are they discouraged to behave in that way? What's the cost of those behaviors? And we pick up and we create stories and we create rules for ourselves. Now, those rules, they don't just sit quietly in our mind, they start to do things. So they interact with our memories. The moment they interact with our memories, that can trigger our emotions. Emotions can influence our thoughts, and those thoughts can reinforce our identity. And this whole thing is happening so quickly and so invisibly that it can simply feel like that's just me. I am like that. We can tend to say that, that's just who I am. But we are going to slow that process down and we're going to go look underneath the reaction. So, as I said in the beginning of the session today, that there are 4 layers that we'll go through one by one. And we'll see what that layer does and how we can observe and introduce, ourselves within that so that we can begin to watch the experience rather than become it. So the 4 layers are the first one being thoughts, the second is memories, the third is our identity stories, and the fourth one is the watcher. Now, layer one, which is that of the thoughts, is the most obvious layer, right? Our minds are producing thoughts constantly. We know that. Thousands and thousands of thoughts every day. Some are useful. A lot of them are repetitive. Some thoughts could be predictive in nature. We tend to make predictions. My life is going to be like this, or the day is going to be like this, or this person is definitely going to behave in this way with me. So these are all predictions. So some thoughts are of predictions, some are interpretations. We know that The mind loves to create meaning out of everything. So a lot of thoughts can go into interpreting events, situations, people. Then some are memories, which could be replaying themselves. And a lot of them are completely automatic thoughts. So uh, it it's almost like there's a spontaneous thought stream inside of us. And these thoughts could sound like, she does not respect me, or he does not respect me. I should have said something. I'm falling behind. We have all kinds of thoughts. Now, again, we are not trying to stop these thoughts. We are simply trying to become more aware of what is it that we think about, so we're not controlled by our thoughts. Now, when we ask what happened to the mind, say we ask ourselves what happened. Now, the moment we ask what happened, the brain will give us some facts, but very quickly it'll mix up those facts with the meaning that it's making of that event. So very rarely will we replay something objectively or only with the facts. When we instead ask ourselves, and it could sound funny actually, what did my mind say about what happened? What did my mind say about what happened? Now, when we use this statement or this question to ourselves, what did my mind say about what happened? We can already see the humor in it, right? Like we already know that it's not just the truth, it's also the story. Someone hasn't replied to our message. Fact is, they have not replied. The thought is, they are ignoring me. A further thought is, they don't respect me. A further more thought is, people always take me for granted. So within seconds, without realizing, we've moved from a very objective event of someone has not replied to an entire psychological narrative. And because the narrative has happened inside your own head, it really can feel like reality. So, yeah, once I go through all of these layers, we'll just do a recap as well. Now, the second layer is that of memories. Now, we can think about memories as an emotional store. Um, it involves two parts of the brain, the hippocampus and the amygdala. Now, this is very interesting because sometimes we would have noticed, all of us at some point, that the intensity of our response does not seem to match the present situation. Now, something happens today, not too big. The emotional intensity can seem much larger than the event itself would explain. Why? Because we can tend to match this present, pattern match it with the past. So, say, we could catch on to a tone of voice or a facial expression or someone feeling disappointed with us, someone withdrawing, someone saying something harsh. Now, while these things could, I'm not saying that these things could not be hurtful or these things would not matter, but when the present event activates, say, an older memory, it can make us react much more wildly than we would think we would do. And we don't even consciously understand that we are doing it. Now, so the corollary of would be that an emotionally charged experience from the past can become reactivated when something in the present resembles it. And thinking for yourselves as well, like, have you ever had a reaction that probably felt bigger than the situation? And um, that could often be a clue, worth investigating. Because today, what happened could have touched on what happened before, and which is why the reaction felt like, so much bigger than that one reply not coming to you in time. The third layer is the layer of identity stories. And in yoga, we call it the ahamkara, or the I sense, the I maker. It is the story of who we believe we are. We all have certain beliefs about ourselves. And, when I work with people, I often ask them, um, just tell me about yourself. How would you describe yourself to me? And the way someone describes themselves says a lot about the beliefs they are holding about themselves. So, say, when people say things like, I'm not someone who asks for help, or I'm terrible with emotions, I've always been like this, I'm the responsible one, I have to be the strong one, or I'm just an angry person, I don't like being vulnerable. These statements tell us a lot about the internal sort of narrative that's formed about that person. But to us, when we say these things, these feel like facts, right? These can feel so real to us. They can feel like we are enmeshed. I am this. I always do this. I am not good with this. These are absolute statements. There is no flexibility in these statements. However, what we should know is that these are stories. Facts perhaps maybe cannot be rewritten, but a story can be rewritten. And um, identity is nothing but behavior that is self perpetuating, constantly repeating. And therefore, we feel like we've done it so many times that that's me. So many times I've been angry at, having a certain feedback for me or being told something. And I've done it the same way every time. I can tend to believe that that's me. Or if I believe I'm not good at emotions, maybe I've done that tens and hundreds of times, where I've found it difficult to say what I want to say, or even difficult to hold space for someone who wants to talk to me about something. And it's just the repetition of that behavior that makes me feel like I am this person, or I am not good with this, or this is how I always react. So it's good to know that it's only a story that we've given to ourselves, and the story is coming just from our behaviors. And the good thing is, behaviors can change. We also discussed this yesterday, that it it sort of becomes a cycle, right? When I hold a belief, I display it in my behavior, I get a similar response from the environment, which further strengthens my belief. See, I told you I'm not good on this. I've been telling this to everyone. Don't talk to me when I'm angry, I tend to react like this. So um it's the identity story that creates behavior, which again reinforces the identity story. And that's the third layer that we've been talking about. Now, again and again, perhaps, I'm repeating myself, but we've spoken about the difference between saying I'm an angry person and I can react angrily, or uh, or between saying I'm someone who doesn't need anyone and saying I have difficulty asking for help. That's just how I am. Against, I can shut down under pressure. Now, the first ones describe behavior. The first ones describe, you know, a statement which has behavior turned into identity. But the second statement, it describes behavior. So rather than focusing on, you know, identity statements, we can simply focus on behaviors, because behaviors are easier to change for us. Now, the fourth layer, sitting, say, on top of all of this, is something which we call our discerning awareness. In simple terms, it's the watcher. And this is extremely practical. There's nothing mystical about this. Um, the watcher is the part of me. We also spoke about this in, when you're talking about metacognition, thinking about our thinking. I am thinking this. I am feeling this. I am remembering something. I am telling myself this story. I am beginning to shut down. The the thing with the watcher is that it is extremely honest. The watcher is 100% honest. It doesn't lie to us. It's not going to say this is not happening. It's not going to say you should be okay because this is not a big deal. The watcher will tell you that this is what you're thinking about. This is a fact. This is the story you're creating. This is how you're feeling about that story. This is the behavior you've started engaging in. So, say you're in an argument, and at first, you could be saying things like, oh, she's becoming completely unreasonable. And then suddenly you notice that, okay, I'm getting defensive. Now, that moment of noticing is different from the thought itself. And that moment of noticing is the watcher. It's our ability to observe our thoughts, our emotions, our identity stories without being fully taken over by them. So I'll just quickly, recap the four layers. The layer one being our thoughts or the spontaneous mind. So everything, the thoughts that come in, the constant commentary, planning, threat assessment, replaying that keeps running through our mind. Uh, Most of the times we're not even aware of what we are thinking, and we just keep getting pulled by our thoughts in different directions. So that's the first layer. It's the spontaneous mind. It's the layer of our thoughts. The second one is the layer of our memories. It's the emotional store of our memories. Now, emotionally charged experiences from our past can remain stored in the nervous system. So, when the present moment, say, incident or thought or someone's behavior, it matches an old experience, whether it's a tone, it's a look, it's a word, the emotions from that memory can flood the present before you even consciously realize it. It's just how the brain protects us. But it's good to know that it's driving reactions that belong to the past, and not really to it's not really about what's happening in the present. It's the emotion from the past that's coming and flooding us because it stays stored inside. Now, the third layer is the layer of our identity stories or the I maker. Um, we can form, and all of us, we do form certain statements, certain beliefs about ourselves. I don't need anyone. I'm not good with emotions. I'm just like this. These statements can feel like facts. However, we know that they are simply stories the mind has solidified over time. And it's good to distinguish, it's good to create that distinction and know that a story can be rewritten. So, this layer is the layer um, that sort of decides who you think you are, who you believe you are. And the last one, layer four, is that of the watcher, which is our ability for discerning awareness. It's the most important layer. It's the part of us that can observe all the others without being taken over by them. When we catch ourselves in mid reaction, I'm about to lose it. That is the watcher. And every skill, that we learn is somehow it's built on the foundation of this one ability to watch ourselves. Those were the four layers. Now, if I had to use an example um, that can say bring all the four layers in, say there's a work situation and you are at work and um, your manager says, I think we need to rethink this decision. Now, thoughts start to play out. He thinks I made a bad decision. Um, maybe he's not trusting me. I'm failing at this. These are all thoughts coming up. Now, there is a memory. Perhaps the tone that the manager used, it resembles an earlier experience of being, say, criticized or being humiliated. So now it's not just what the manager said, it's gotten mixed up. Pattern match has happened with an experience from the past where a similar tone meant at that time that you had to go through a hard experience. So the emotion now from this incident has become more heightened than if the memory was not present. Now, the identity story that could here be come into picture could be I need to be competent. I can't look like I don't know what I'm doing. And therefore, your reactions for that could be, say, defensiveness, could be argument, sulking, withdrawal. What would the watcher do? The watcher would tell you objectively, this is what has happened. There is some part in this which I am assuming. What I'm feeling right now is that I am threatened. So I feel like there's a threat to me, to my work, to my standing with my manager because this has happened. And suddenly, the moment you start thinking like that, you have a choice, which is why the model can be very useful because one, it no longer makes us feel like we are victims to something. It helps us get our power back in whatever kind of situation it is. And then it can help us separate fact from fiction. It can also, and sometimes, objectively, it can be a difficult situation. Maybe the manager actually meant that. And situations play out in a way which are not going in your favor. Even then, when you witness that, you can comfort yourself, you can reassure yourself. So the ability of witnessing or of discerning awareness is not just to tell us that you're making things up and it's not entirely true. It's also to identify what we are feeling and treat ourselves with kindness accordingly. Also, a good question to think about or to self-reflect is in your own narrative, which layer do you think you could be usually mistaking for reality? So for some people, it's thoughts. People could think, if I think it, it must be true. So because my brain is telling me that this is how it's going to play out, I know that this is how it's going to be. When we operate there, it's layer one. We are operating from thoughts, and it's in this layer that we are mistaking what's happened for reality. Second could be memories. Because this has happened before, it's going to happen again. Some of us could be operating from memories because I faced humiliation in the past, it's going to happen again. I've suffered heartbreak in the past, it's going to happen again. People have cheated me in the past, it's going to happen again. For some people, it could be identity. This is simply who I am. I am this person. Deal with it. We can say this to ourselves, we can say this to others. So this, if we think like this, then we could be operating from the third layer, which is that of the eye maker. Now, um, with awareness, as we've seen, with witnessing, we can learn to see that all of this is happening inside me. How can I help myself? So yeah, that's what I had for today. Um, any questions you could ask me? Um, a short practice that maybe I can share with you, which is a practical tool that you could use. And before I say that or share that, I just want to say that, on the lives, we often discuss lots of practices, lots of tools. You don't have to do everything. You can pick up any one thing. The Buddha, I think, has said that there are 84,000 ways, 84,000 practices. We don't have to do all 84,000 of them. We can pick just one. Whichever you feel suits you the best, or whichever you feel, brings out some kind of relief for you, or creates some kind of, more reflection for you. So I share because for whatever we're talking about, I feel like, sometimes this tool could be helpful or the other one, but please don't feel overwhelmed and just pick and choose what works best for you. However, there is no substitute for practice. So whichever one you choose, please go through with it. And with practice, we really can change anything that we've so far believed. So, okay, that said, the 4-layer pause is a practical tool that we can use in real life. So when something, say, suddenly activates you, you could ask yourself, what am I thinking? Question 1. Question 2, what am I feeling in my body? Question 3, what story about me has just been activated? And 4th, can I watch all of this while I'm breathing? What am I thinking? What am I feeling in my body? What story about me has just been activated? And can I just watch all of this happening while I can breathe for a few minutes? So that's what I had today about self-awareness. And you could even think about, which layer you could be in: thought, memory, identity, story, or watcher. And catch yourself maybe, in a situation or during, say, any feeling of emotional activation, and reflect, which layer am I acting from? Or which layer right now is stronger for me? So, yeah, that's it. And tomorrow we'll continue to go deeper. We'll speak a little bit more about neuroplasticity and how we can change the brain. So, thanks for being here. Thanks for practicing with me, for showing up, and have a good day. Have a good evening where you are. We'll meet tomorrow.